where does Hideo Kojima get his ideas? In this podcast, we take a deep dive into his brain and shed light on his creative process. Hideo Kojima presents Brain Structure.
こんにちは、小島秀夫です。ポッドキャストプログラム、Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure.
Hello, I'm Hideo Kojima. Welcome to another episode of Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure. Last time, we were chatting with director Jordan Peele, and this time, it is part 2 of our conversation. So my partner again for today is the one and only...
Thank you, Mr. Kojima, and hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Keighley, producer of the Game Awards, and the Jeff's answer on this podcast. And Hideo, I have to say, hearing you and Jordan talk with each other last week was so special. I didn't really say much because I could feel the bond that you had with each other, even though you were meeting for the first time, the common respect between both of you. So I'm going to continue to be a fly on the wall and listen to part 2 of this conversation between Hideo Kojima and Jordan Peele for Brain Structure.
なんか痛快ですね、こんなに。
Absolutely terrific. This was so new, and you've surpassed everyone's expectations, I think. It's not something you can do easily. I think the bar has been set very high for next time, but I'm sure you can do it, Jordan.
Yes, it's a bit of a challenge, but I believe strongly that a film, you allow a film to compete with itself the best you can. So, my next film, I think I'm glad that I have the audience place where they really genuinely don't know where I'm going to go.
でも僕とジョーダンそこ似てると思うんで。
Well, I think we're a lot alike there. I try not to feel the pressure too much when I'm creating, but I use that pressure and the hurdles to my advantage in order to aim higher. Thanks to that pressure, I can get better. It's really a blessing as a creator. This isn't something that can be learned or taught. I'm really grateful. And Jordan, you're one of those special people too.
Well, thank you. I mean, you've been doing this such a high level for so long. You've maintained something, I have to say is extremely special. So, I hope I'm able to continue this path of outdoing myself and continuing to serve my audience, really. But to top myself, I'm guessing we have the same process, which is to be more vulnerable with yourself than you were last time.
そうですね。
Yeah, you're right. Jeff, do you want to jump in? I've never seen Jeff go this long without talking.
No, it's great. I love the conversation. No, but for the two of you guys to chat with each other like this is so special. And to hear, Jordan, that you were playing, MGS2 back in the day and stuff is phenomenal. Was that Hideo's first game that you remember playing?
Yes, and I've done a bit of a departure from gaming, except in sort of tourist manners. But I've been following the empire, and just watching the quality surpass itself. I've been seeing. So I have a real connection with that game, but I don't know what to say. I'm very humble.
Thank you.
What Hideo was doing with PT, I don't know if you know that was a project he was doing with Guillermo that was kind of horror, but was inspired with kind of defying convention, right? And I've always thought your filmmaking style, how it could apply to sort of interactivity, right, and playing with the audience, right? And that's one thing that I think is you've gone down obviously a linear narrative path, and Hideo has done so much in the interactive space. Are you curious about thinking about how you could tell stories interactively?
Yeah, certainly with you, Hideo. I'm fascinated with the way we process story. I'm fascinated with the different methods the immersion of the video game. And I think one of the things that I feel like Hideo does better that you do better than other people is somehow making it a film and immersive at the same time and playable. So sort of satisfying everything. And when I think about that, I think about it's kind of like doing what I have to do, but then you have other art forms that you also have to be mastering. It has to be the gameplay, has to be completely innovative. The visual is a completed, I very much, I love film because I can rely on the happy accidents, the things that go wrong a bit to add my beauty. Correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like in your world you have to make the happy accidents. How do you capture the magic in something where you have presumably so much control?
ありますさん、同じように。
Yes, we do have similar happy accidents. When I'm creating something, I kind of have two personalities, like a left brain person and a right brain person. Even if it wasn't something I calculated or intentionally did, there are times when I'll realize something makes perfect logical sense down the line. Visuals too. I'll do instinctively and build up good ideas as I go. And in games, there are areas where you have to build things up through logical feedback. And I'll realize that I had done some really detailed and minute left brain decision making along the way. Those are coincidental, or what you call happy accidents, and it takes me by surprise every time. Also, in thinking about game design, I think about the possible actions that all sorts of people will make. Like player A would go this way, B would go that way, C would go back, and D probably wouldn't move at all. But no matter how much I think through all the possibilities, people find a way to do something I never expected. And that discovery is so fun, and well, maybe a coincidence, but I think it's magical. So things like this can happen, and I find many surprises throughout creating a game.
Wonderful. There's, as I'm sure you agree, it's collaboration is the secret to unlock something greater than what a single entity can unlock. But there are some people who can have a conversation with themselves. And that's you. There's some people that's built a certain way, and I know you collaborate as well, but you have the ability to listen to yourself and to treat yourself like a stranger, which is ultimately an act of empathy, I believe, because what you're doing is what you're saying. You're putting yourself in the ability to remove yourself from the creator constantly. I remember a formative methodology for me in my creative. I used to draw a lot. I used to be a visual artist way more than I am now. At some point, around 18 or 19, my art almost exclusively became that weird sketching game where you sort of sketch some nonsense with one hand and then make sense of it with the other hand. And when I figured out that I started making more beautiful, interesting art than I ever had, I quickly stopped sketching. And I haven't sketched yet, but that energy and that principle of, oh my God, I can do something better in a conversation with myself than I can if it's just me.
まあ映画ってカメラの視点移動。
Yeah, I think for movies, the camera positions and angles are really the best part. And I think most creators are the kind of people who are capable of doing many things. And that includes being able to switch perspectives within themselves. They can see themselves from a bird's eye view or from a micro or macro perspective. I think those kind of talented people are meant to be creators.
One of the challenges I have writing is something that I've now identified, which is I have to get to a point where I know how and why each character is me and what it means to me. until I get to that point, I can't really write that character with the empathy that the character deserves. And so a big part of the process for me is finding myself in each of these characters, that sometimes I've started from what feel like arbitrary places.
ジョーダンさんも
Jordan, you create such fascinating characters. And I agree, I'm the same way. But characters don't just move on their own. You have to find a part of yourself within them. Otherwise, you can't visualize them vividly. I think we're the same there.
Yes. And, with the film, as must be to an extent with character design and character creation and programming and the voicing of characters. With film, there's very much a real trust that you have to put in this one person to deliver that character. And it's a fascinating part of the process and very difficult because every actor has their own programming, has their own way that they work best. And I find it's a bit like, working with creating music. If everyone brings in an instrument you've never seen before, and you still have to kind of make music, very fun. And by the way, thank you for referencing, giving a shout out to Hoyte van Hoytema, the cinematographer, in your last episode. He is a wonderful, wonderful wizard of a talent, and pushed boundaries in technology for this film. We did the for instance, the night shots were done at daytime, through this revolutionary day for night process that we developed on this project that he developed, using infrared cameras, two cameras at the same time to gather two pieces of information. So without we were able to see a space at night that we would never be able to light, and therefore it's just bigger night than you will see in any other movie. And learning from him and watching him really felt like it felt like an adventure. You somehow managed to get a pirate ship together, and you got the guy who knows how to build the best damn sails,
I think that followers of this method will appear. They'll see how you did it this time and try to do the same. But some will put in a lot of work to try and go beyond what's already been done. And I think that's another power that movies have. It's the same with games too, but we're limited to the technology that currently exists. So the difference lies in the work that you put in to make the impossible. And when you successfully create something, followers appear and the realm of possibility expands. This cycle is really wonderful, I think. I saw Jaws as a kid, and that first scene at night when the girl gets attacked? Well, in Japan, they sell movie pamphlets at the theater, and I saw that they had shot it in the daytime. They didn't have the technology to film at night back then. It was interesting, but I was more shocked than anything else. Like, so this is how they make it. And I think that's one of the things that makes movies so great. I love watching behind the scenes of movies, and obviously, Jordan, your Nope also has a lot of hidden techniques too.
Jaws was in many ways a guide in very obvious ways to this film, but the way that it was most for me as a director was recognizing that there's an element of that movie that feels scrappy, element of that movie that feels like what it is, a director who's bitten off too big a story. And I almost wanted to put myself as much into that position or replicate it as I could. And so part of the language, the visual language of this film really is meant to feel like this is a small crew that is hanging on by dear life, just trying to capture this impossible moment that Jaws really did feel like. And And you're right, that is a classic sequence you're talking about. And one of the biggest things from Jaws that I've taken into every movie I've ever done from that film, it's a masterclass in how little to show your monster. Very simple, right? And they say he did it because he had to he had to hide the fact that his monster wasn't working. But every director has learned from this is like less is more. And what you're saying, the audience's imagination is better than I am at creating something. So if you can use that.
映画だからものを見せるって割と
You know, a movie is boring if you just show everything and end it there. It's about imagination, right? It's similar to a book. The amazing thing about Spielberg is that in Jaws, or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or Jurassic Park, his technique is to show the surprised expressions of the people. He won't show you what they're looking at. As the viewer, you want to see the thing that is surprising these people, but they won't easily show it to you. So you have to imagine. It's a very classic performance, but it was definitely shocking at first. But there are some B-class movies that Spielberg did where he doesn't show you the monster at all, even at the end. Because he didn't have the budget. But you see the monster quite a bit in the last half of Jaws. Nope really shows it too, so that was amazing.
Thank you. Well, that, the suspense and the amount that you build an audience up and make them work. Part of this film was, I still have to be up for the challenge of trying, because movies, really great movies, are up for the challenge, Movies about spectacle, movies like King Kong, and Jurassic Park, that go this extra level in fulfilling the promise of the film. Because I did know the momentum we were generating, especially with the pace of it. And so I was very glad. One of the things I loved that you acknowledged in your talking about it is that the pace of it, there's a point where it almost feels like if it continues at this pace, we're not going to get. And I was really hoping to have the audience in the middle of the finale not knowing how it got ratcheted up so quick, not knowing how all of a sudden the payoff was there. So I'm so glad to hear the payoff worked for you.
デス・ストランディングをすごいスローペースにしたんです。
I get it. You know my game, Death Stranding? I made the pacing of that really slow too. I slowly introduced the world, but there's a lot that you can't quite understand yet. Games nowadays are so high-paced. Movies on Netflix are like that too. Death Stranding was very slow-paced like Nope, and the people who were able to play past that point really enjoyed the game. There were a lot of challenges though.
Death Stranding is epically successful, and I'll play it immediately. I mean, now that I know you, I'm going to do all my catch up, and I'm excited. I'm curious about the how the question of the vulnerability and creating something as your life continues to become more abnormal and weird, creating something that continues to connect to the emotional core of everyone,
僕は
So I became a creator because I liked making stuff. Well, what I really wanted to be was an astronaut. But anyways, once I started creating, I slowly started to gain fans. And they would tell me they were looking forward to my next work, or they got to where they are today because of my work. And I realized that there were people all over the world who understood me. And that changed my way of living. I used to create for myself and because it was my job, but that changed and it kind of became a way of life for me. Just like Tom Cruise said in Maverick, I could never work this hard if it was a job. It's more like a mission. I'm dedicating my life not to myself, but to someone else. I'm creating for those who are waiting for me. That's the only way I can work this hard.
Very nature you were talking about, of having to put yourself inside the player. So central to my style of filmmaking too. I'm very much, this idea that if the protagonist if we can empathize with the protagonist, if we can experience the world through their eyes, then we really do, we can learn everything about ourselves, kind of recognize a connection that happens whichever circumstances we are. So anyway, that's why I love story, and very excited to meet you, and I hope we can continue to be friends.
いやいや、こちらこそ。
Same here. I love to meet in person.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Reach out when you guys are in town.
はい、行きます。はい。
Yes, I'll go. Let's talk again soon.
はい、さてですね、名残惜しいんですけども。
With great reluctance, I must say that it is time to end the episode.
Great. That was such a special interview. I think Hideo and I have been talking a lot about this podcast and where things can go. And I thought this interview was exactly what I think this podcast can be at its best, really looking at the brain structure of Hideo and Jordan and combining their brains together to talk about their creative process. I hope all you listeners agree that this is exactly what we want brain structure to be. And it was a very fascinating conversation. So, thank you to Jordan for joining us. Thank you to Hideo for all the great insights. And I'm looking forward to more great conversations in future episodes.
ということで、来週のヒデオ・コジマプレゼンツブレインストラクチャー。
Please look forward to next week's Hideo Kojima presents Brain Structure.
次回もお楽しみに。さようなら。
Hideo Kojima presents Brain Structure is a production by Spotify Studios in association with Kojima Productions and Fam Inc. TGA, the Jeff's Answer MC, Jeff Keighley. Narrator, Owen Maki. Music, Silent Poets. Visual design, Mechi Kuro. Producer, Hiro Furuki. Director, Kohei Takizawa. Executive producer at Spotify, Asami Sekine. Special thanks to Kojima Productions, Ayako Terashima, Masafumi Chiba, Miki Suga, and Aki Saito. Hosted by Hideo Kojima.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Oh, you weren't waiting? 2 weeks of creative passion and insight with Jordan Peele was incredible, wasn't it? On the next episode, Hideo Kojima and his connection to music. Let's take a deep dive into his world of music. Since we can play songs on a Spotify podcast, we'll play you a few of Hideo's selections.